Hi, everyone. Welcome back to my podcast. This is Sunny. I talk about life transformation with the power of unconditional self love. There's always a pressure many people carry in their lives without even realizing it. It's a pressure to get everything right, look polished, never make mistakes, and always seem in control. At first, perfectionism can look like discipline. But over time, it often turns into fear. Fear of being judged, fear of failing, fear of not being enough. And when that fear stays too long, it can close the heart. And this video today is all about letting that go. It's about realizing perfectionism. So there is more room for peace, softness, honesty, and real connection. Because a heart that is trying to be perfect is often too busy to be open because we are always trying to get some kind of validation. There's always a sense of instant gratification. And a heart that opens can finally thus breathe. There's always a hidden weight of perfectionism. Sometimes it looks like high standards, ambition, or wanting to do well, and we want to nail down everything. We want to be highly focused towards achieving something, and we have forgotten about everything else in our lives. But underneath it, there's often a quiet ache. And what if that high standard that we are trying to achieve is actually stealing our peace? The need to get it right every time can make simple things feel so heavy, and a small mistake can feel so huge. A normal delay can feel like failure. A human moment can feel embarrassing. A person may look fine on the outside while carrying constant tension on the inside. Always checking, always fixing, always looking for validation, always comparing, always wondering if it's enough. And the truth is that kind of living becomes so exhausting that, one time comes in our life that we feel that burden, that heaviness, that pressure on ourselves, and then we are left clueless. We feel that perfectionism promises safety, but it is usually bringing more pressure. It says if you do everything perfectly, you will be accepted. But life doesn't work that way. Because people are loved in their honesty, with their true authenticity, with what they truly are, but not with their flawless performance. And that is where the healing begins. So this perfectionism that we are trying to chase closes our heart. Because when a person is always trying to be perfect, the heart often stays guarded. So ask yourself a question. Are you keeping people at arm's length because you're afraid that they will see the real you? You will know the right answer to that. Why? Because perfectionism makes people afraid to be seen as they really are. It says that you gotta hide the flaws. It says that you gotta hide your mistakes. It says that you gotta hide your past. It says that you gotta hide the messy parts. And slowly that creates a distance from others and from ourselves. So let me give you my example, my life example. Why? Because this is gonna be a big encouragement for everyone. I am 43 years old. I'm type 2 diabetic. I'm a divorced person with no kids, no family, although I'm worthy of a family. I deserve that kind of happiness in my life. I'm not a rich person, okay? And I am living in a town where I do not have any relationships, any good friend whatsoever, because I understood the most important aspect of our lives, which is that unconditional self-love and peace is the only thing that we require, and nothing else, and rest comes later. So this has allowed me to look inwards and heal those parts and be with myself in order to understand myself completely by removing all those identities, egos, those comparisons, those validations that I used to look for 20 long years. And I was always trying to be perfect. I was always chasing relationships by jeopardizing my own true self. So remember, the heart becomes more focused on control than connection. Why? Because we are trying to control everything outside us. And then it becomes so hard to relax and so hard to trust, so hard to receive love without trying to earn it first. Because, we keep trying, we keep trying to prove ourselves. That's the, worst part of it. That is what perfectionism does, that it makes love so conditional. But real love doesn't ask for perfection. Real love asks for presence. Real love says, come as you are. And to hear that, the heart has to stop bracing so tightly. You gotta open up yourself. You gotta be true to yourself and also true to the other person by releasing that perfectionism. And that release of perfectionism is not about becoming careless. It is all about becoming free and enough to be real. Now, there is a spiritual truth behind it, that we were always born as a whole human being, okay? So spiritually speaking, perfectionism fights against your true nature. Because since our childhood until our adult age, and then we get in families and we have relationships and jobs, and we go through different challenges until our mid-age, we develop that sense of limited belief system, and we do not heal ourselves from those traumas, those kind of, challenges or those experiences that we face throughout our lives. And then every tradition on top of it teaches that humans carry something sacred inside. If I talk about Buddhism, if I talk about Hinduism, if I talk about Christianity, there is always a divine spark, your soul light, your higher self, okay? And this essence was never broken, never lacking, never needing to prove yourself until, we got programmed into such kind of things that we got to comply with the society, we got to comply with certain, modern ways of living, wherein there is always a comparison, always competition, always, chasing, always trying to prove your worth and whatnot. So what if you've been trying to perfect something that was created perfect? Because perfectionism, the definition of it says, fix yourself first, and then you will be worthy. Spirituality says you are worthy the moment you arrived. Those kind of things that we keep going through in our lives, those challenges, those mistakes, if we accept them, that we were supposed to do those mistakes, we were supposed to go through those challenges. Why? Because we chose our own journey, own spiritual journey, to become the best version of ours. But at some stage, all those limited belief systems, everything that we carry from the past, they block us and we get stuck. So the spiritual path isn't becoming flawless. It's remembering your wholeness. Letting go of perfectionism isn't losing control. It's returning to your divine design. And when spiritual truth lands, the heart remembers you're not earning love. You're uncovering the love that's always been there. Once we keep experiencing certain things, right, in our lives, and then the stage comes wherein there is always a fear behind the mask. And perfectionism often wears that mask of strength, but fear is usually underneath it. people would not admit it, okay? They will keep saying, oh, I am this, I am that, but underneath it, there's something else going on. So what are you actually afraid of if you stop trying to be perfect? Fear of disappointing people? Fear of looking foolish? Fear of being rejected? Fear of not being enough unless everything is polished? That fear can start early. Maybe there was praise only when things were done well. Maybe mistakes were met with criticism. Maybe being good felt like the only way to feel safe. So the nervous system learns to stay alert, okay? The nervous system is always protecting us. And believe you me, kingdom of heaven, all those things from spirituality point of view, they all talk about your nervous system calibration, okay? And that nervous system is something that controls everything from your mental growth until your emotional growth, okay? But a heart that is always on alert cannot fully open. And this is why compassion matters. And I made a video on compassion and kindness, and this is why I will encourage you to check out my previous video on compassion and kindness and how can you use that to become your own best friend. I'll share the link in the description. The compassion matters. Why? Because perfectionism is totally silly. Because it has usually been trying to protect someone for a very long time. And it would have helped you in certain situations. It would have helped you in achieving some goals or some kind of relationships in your life. But what protected us in the past can sometimes block us in the present. So the next step is not punishment. It is basically understanding. Understanding where we want to go ahead and release that control, where we want to be our real selves, okay? So let's say, for me, if I attract somebody in my life, right, then I got to be real with that person in terms of talking about what I went through in my life, what lessons I learned, what kind of person I am right now, and what are the priorities for me or the goals that I have in my life. And similarly, you can relate to your life as well, in case if you're looking for some kind of relationship in your life or looking for genuine connections in your life, you gotta be genuine with yourself first. And that's where honesty comes in. Because the heart opens in honesty. A heart can only open in honesty when it becomes safer than an image, okay? So you got to ask yourself that question again. When was the last time you let someone see your real unpolished self? When someone can say, I do not have it all together, the heart begins to soften. When someone can say, I made a mistake, the heart begins to breathe. When someone can say, I'm tired of pretending, something inside starts healing. Perfectionism keeps people in performance. However, honesty brings them back to themselves. And that is why many people feel peace, not when they finally get everything right, but when they finally stop pretending they have to. Because that's where the real connection begins, with truth and honesty. Not with the polished version and not with the edited version, with your real version. And once the heart knows it can be real and still be loved, it begins to open naturally. And when you need to start that journey towards your real self, it requires slow progress over perfection. And one of the most freeing choices is to choose that slow progress, because that progress allows room for mistakes, that progress allows room for learning, that progress allows room for growth. And spirituality is all about growth, acceptance, and let go. Perfection says, do it right in the first time, okay? You gotta just nail it in the first time and you will be rich. You will get the relationship like this. You will be a superstar. You will get the respect like this. You will get everything like this. But progress says, keep going. Don't worry about your flaws. Don't worry about the mistakes. Don't worry about the challenges. Perfection says, do not mess up. However, progress says, messing up is a part of learning. That's what we were taught in the school. Keep doing mistakes, and practice makes a man perfect. The shift changes everything as it takes the pressure off the first step. Okay. And it makes healing feel possible, because healing is something that we don't want to do. I can understand it could be painful. It is very painful, because I've done that on my own. But we got to start from somewhere. And time does heal our internal wounds, our soul's wound. But it's you who's going to take that courage to start that healing process in order to skip timelines, in order to move forward in your life rather than getting stuck with those kind of thoughts or emotions again and again. And then when you heal, when you start healing, it gives the heart permission to keep moving without shame. And when we keep thinking that goal is perfection, that every mistake that we're doing or we encounter, feels like proof of failure. And then we get disheartened, okay? But when the goal is progress, every mistake becomes part of the divine path. And this is the best and the most kindest way to live, which is living by letting yourself be seen. Because perfectionism often hides the real person behind the performance, and we always keep that mask on. Why? Because what happens is, if we have got something going on in our lives, and you would have experienced that in your life, wherein you're going through challenges, you got some kind of issues going on, or maybe you don't like a person, right? And then you still want to go ahead and say hi or hello by keeping that emotion within you, and then you're putting up a mask and talking to a person with a smile on you. That means you are betraying yourself. That slow progress by loving yourself unconditionally with compassion removes that mask and brings your real self to accept the people the way they are. But the heart can only open, when a person is willing to be seen as they are. Not only the strong parts I'm talking about, not only the successful parts, not only the helpful parts, the whole person I'm talking about, the whole you I'm talking about, the tired parts, the unsure parts, the learning parts, the healing parts. This is where courage grows. Because letting others see the real self can feel vulnerable, I understand that, but vulnerability is often the doorway to keep connection. And people do not connect through perfection, they connect through truth. And truth says, this is me, and not the version of me that never make mistakes. Just, this is me. That is enough for me to accept myself the way I am without chasing any perfectionism. And when we stop chasing perfectionism, we start moving towards a softer life with more open heart. And slowly the perfectionism loosens its grip. Life changes in quiet ways that we cannot even imagine right now. There is less self-attack, less comparison, less pretending, less pressure to hold everything together, less validation, less judgment. And in this place, there is so much of space to rest, space to enjoy, space to laugh more freely, space to love more honestly, and a softer heart. A softer heart doesn't mean a weak heart. It means a heart that does not have to stay armored all the time. However, we need to make sure of those healthy boundaries so that we do not entertain those kind of people ever again in our lives who have already disrespected us or broken our hearts. Not from arrogance, not from hate, not from ego, from the point of acceptance and forgiveness. Because that kind of heart that we're gonna carry can forgive more easily. It can receive kindness more fully. It can move through life with more space. It can move through life with more peace. And that softness is not a flaw, not a weakness. It becomes our biggest strength in a gentler form. And then this starts our real healing journey. The healing of need to be perfect. Healing perfectionism. And then asking ourselves a question. What would happen if I did not try so hard to prove myself? You got to ask yourself that question. And that question could be so life-changing for you, because often underneath that need to be perfect is a deep need to be loved, safe, and neurologically, our nervous system gets so weak in terms of depending upon people emotionally, or probably on certain things in our lives, that we are not able to overcome that because of the fears underneath it. I understand those needs are human, okay? But healing looks like choosing grace over harshness. And it looks like allowing unfinished steps. It looks like resting before exhaustion. It looks like speaking to yourself as if you matter the most in your life, even when nothing is polished, even when you're going through challenges, even when you have everything all over the place. And that is how the heart begins to trust again. And this trust starts coming in because we are releasing that perfectionism. And releasing perfectionism is not about becoming less. It's about becoming more open, more peaceful, and more authentic, real, genuine to ourselves. It is about remembering that love was never for perfection. It was just waiting for your honesty, your truth to yourself, your genuinism to yourself, for softness, for presence. And then when perfectionism begins to loosen, the heart does what it was always meant to do. It opens, it heals, and it throws in the unconditional love and peace that you're always worthy of. So before I end this video, I would appreciate if you can follow and subscribe to my channel, as this brings me a lot of motivation to come up with new content all the time in relation to unconditional self-love. And also do share my videos and my channel link with those people who really want that wisdom to go through or to deal with certain challenges that they're going through at the moment. So always remember, if you love yourself, you're worthy of receiving love. If you respect yourself, you're worthy of receiving respect. If you're kind and compassionate to yourself, you're worthy of receiving that kindness and compassion from others as well. Because what you are is what you're going to get. This is Sunny, signing off. Take care.